Now, hello and thank you for the invitation. I will talk about soil life today, and hopefully I can bring you some new insights. My name is Susanne Reichart, and Marion already said most of the most important things about me and my field of activities. So let's start on the soil life and its importance for us humans. Um, Essentially, all life depends on the soil. There can be no life without soil and no soil without life. They have evolved together. So this statement of Charles Kellogg in the Yearbook of Agriculture is as old as 1938. So it's a long way that we already know that life in soil is really important. And it is one of the most diverse habitats on Earth. It is estimated that up to 3/4 of species worldwide are found in soils. So nowhere in nature are species so densely packed as in soil communities. And all the colorful world above ground, like this thyme or the thyme plant, and dark spotted large plume, this is this butterfly, Phengaris arion, would not exist without soil life. It's for us humans somehow strange because it's a life under extreme conditions. Humans, the word comes from the word humor, soil, and soil organic matter. The whole idea of humanity is linked to soil and soil organic matter as nothing else in the world. But from our human perspective, the biology of soil life is really strange and hard to imagine. We are used to light, and in soil it's darkness, except for maybe the top few millimeters. So soil life is used to live in a labyrinth of sand, silt, or clay in tiny tunnels and pores with air around that is almost completely water saturated. It's 100% humidity and no wind. It's carbon dioxide accumulates there. Oxygen levels are really low. And communication usually works via chemical ways. Usually it's a silent world, but some of the crawly creatures get really loud. So I will start that MP3. I don't know if it's possible. If it's not in the presentation mode, wait a second. I did some recording the other day. Can you hear it?
We hear it, yeah.
So, yeah, the Maulwurfsgrille. I don't know the word in English, but it gets really, really loud. And it's one of those crawly creatures that lives in this hole, underneath the ground, up to until 5 meters down the earth. So what do we consider as soil biodiversity? Sorry? Somebody ask a question, or can I just continue?
You can continue.
Okay. So soil biota includes archaea, bacteria, protists, tardigrades, rotifers, nematodes, acri, those are mites, collembolans, springtails, worms, macroarthropods, and of course burrowing mammals. Soil biodiversity also includes plant roots, fungi, and lichens. Root exudates attract a variety of organisms that either feed directly on these secretions or graze on the microorganisms concentrated near the root, giving this busy environment the name rhizosphere. So there are also beetle larvae, flies, and butterflies that use the soil as a temporary habitat, like this dark spotted large blue on the first side of the slides, to live stages feeding on different life and dead plant materials until they reach their maturity. All of these organisms are involved in creating and maintaining the soil structure and providing essential ecosystem services for humans. So why is the protection of soil biodiversity so important? Well, one of the main challenges that soil conservation faces today is the lack of awareness of the ecological importance of soil biodiversity. All life and well-being depends on it. It's the basis of fertility and food growth. It's part of the regulation of our planet's climate, as microbes are really key to the fight against climate change. Furthermore, they play a fundamental role in decomposition of plant residues, participation in the formation of humic substances, stabilization of soil aggregates, mineralization of organic substances and release of nutrients, promotion of chemical weathering, conversion of organic compounds, binding and releasing of atmospheric nitrogen, enlargement of the root system, and oxidation and reduction of compounds of numerous elements. I will only give a short insight in two groups of organisms that I find really key and very important, that are the invertebrates and the fungi. So invertebrates are the prerequisite of the functioning of ecosystems. The role in humus formation and pollination of flowering plants and water retention as regulators and as a food source for vertebrates is irreplaceable. So in living soil, it contains an incredible high numbers of invertebrates. The number of nematodes, annelids, springtails, mites, and insect larvae alone amounts to several million per hectare. So the biomass of the respective species is an indication of their ecological importance and measures of their participation in material cycles. Invertebrates fulfill central ecological functions as an essential part of the food web between plants and animals in the various ecosystems. So forests, water bodies, fields, and grasslands are inextricably linked to the presence of invertebrates. They are ecoservice providers without whom the material and food cycles in our ecosystems would collapse. As already mentioned, they ensure that the soil remains fertile and contribute to water purity. I will now only take out one invertebrate, which is the most known one, the earthworm, but also a really, really important species. And because with their tubes, they ensure drainage and aeration of the soil and create root channels for plants. Their activity involves what is known as bioturbation, the recycling of organic waste, and even the killing of germs. 3 life forms can be distinguished, which you can see in this little figure. There are the deep diggers that go down till 1-2 meters below Earth, and they create almost vertical burrows up to 2 meters. Then there are the litter forms. that are small and agile and live close to the soil surface in the organic material of the topsoil. They include the compost worm, for example, Eisenia. And then we have the mineral soil forms. They are sluggish and have a translucent pale color throughout their entire body, as they rarely come to the surface. So they are the ones living really deep down in the earth. Yeah. So the spectacular thing about earthworms is that although they are very species poor animal group in Germany only live 46 species, they can form huge communities with 40 or a maximum of 400 grams per square meter of soil surface. So they represent the majority of the biomass of the fauna in normal soils. The highest density of earthworms, they can be found in grasslands, and extrapolated to 1 hectare. The figures are impressive. There can be found 2.3 million earthworms with a biomass of 2.5 tons per hectare. So that's the number of the residents in the Greater Munich area, and the biomass corresponds to the weight of 5 livestock units, cows. Also, earthworms can have a pressure of 256 grams per square centimeter. They have really strong muscles. And in comparison, a person weighing 70 kilo experts a pressure on the floor of approximately only 250 grams. So it's like, 5 times as much. Good. More about the decline in biodiversity of soil. It's not only in the overground world, but also down in the soil. The soil life is decreasing. There was a citizen science project it's called 60 Minutes Worm of the Agricultural Research Institute of Rotterdam. And they found that many soils had too few worm species, especially the deep burrowers were hardly present anymore. In addition, the decline in worms is linked to the drastic decline in the song thrush, so the Singdrossel. The situation in Germany is not much better because according to the WWF analysis, more than half of the 46 earthworm species are classified as very rare or even extremely rare. In agricultural used sites, also the number can fall to less than 30 animals per square meter, and the average in small-scale fields is around 120 specimens, and in less plowed fields, is in organic farming over 450 worms can be counted. So the earthworm is also really important as in their burrows, the water can store the capacity of the soil. The water storage can be improved. So some other crazy soil lives are the collembolans. So they can be described as tiny soil insects, are hexapods by biology, and they make between 10,000 and over 100,000 individuals in the top 30 centimeters of 1 square meter of forest soil in temperate latitudes. So it's by far the most abundant species. And this makes them the second most numerous group of animals in the soil after mites. several species are known to be able to absorb and immobilize heavy metals from the soil. So those are really also important for desealing when it comes to contaminated soil. And so they are our little helpers with heavy metals. Then the second very important soil life is the fungi. They, if we talk about soil life, we have to mention them. They bring us cheese, wine, and beer, but not only that. They are ancient species that covered the earth before plants even came out of the water. So the interaction between plants and fungi is therefore as old as plants itself. Many orchids, like this one, Dactylorhiza maialis, depend on fungi. The interaction between plants and fungi is therefore as old as plants itself. They could not exist without mycorrhiza. As they have neither chlorophyll nor reserve substances, they have to feed an organic material in the soil with the help of fungi. So those orchids are actually threatened with extinction because they have a very special demand on their habitats and often come into conflict with human requirements. The parasitic way of life is particular, and the germination of the tiny orchid seeds, as they have hardly any nutrients reserve of their own, depends on mycorrhiza. So the way in which the orchid plant extracts nutrition from the fungus is still unknown, but it's known that the orchid doesn't give anything back. So it's a parasitic plant in this case. And because orchid meadows, as we find them in Germany and Austria and in other alpine countries, can hardly be restored because of the mycorrhiza and soil life, it's really important to protect them and to stop soil sealing in the first place, or land consumption. As mycorrhiza is not very tolerant to manure, it's important to keep that in mind when dealing with orchids. Fungi grow into huge networks. A fungus in the US is documented to have been growing since 1,500 years and now weighs 10 tons and covers thousands of square meters. So the figure here shows that a succession of plants and fungi. So succession means the natural sequences of different stages of development of soil, plant and animal structures. Soil without soil life means hardly any plants, only pioneer plants that have specialized in the location form from the beginning of succession here, like lichens or on rocky soils, or ruderal herbs on sandy rubble soils. And the bigger the vegetation gets, the more fungi come into place, and before it's more bacteria dominated. So the food network begins as soon as the decomposition of dead leaf and root mass occurs. And the bigger the plants and the trees, the more mycorrhiza. So soil life protection by unsealing is really one of the ways to protect soil life is by unsealing. Many sites in urban areas have been sealed for practical reasons. It's cheap, requires little manual labor, So it's quick and easy to establish, and an asphalt layer, not much knowledge is required. The snowplow and other machines can easily maintain an asphalt site. It's easy to keep it clean and tidy without organic matter lying around, but it's also a dead place. And in the meantime, climate change is forcing us to have a different view of tidy places. What is tidiness? Protecting soil life benefits from the urge to eliminate heat islands. So how could that site be recovered or unsealed? How could it look like? I made this experience. Could look like this. And our landscape is, we have to look at our landscape with a whole concept. Like we should find a biodiversity enhancing concept for our village or city. Where do the animals come from? Is there a connection between the unsealed soil and the natural soil? Can, for example, earthworms or rainbow migrate? Do we have to jumpstart the topsoil through topsoil transfer, by topsoil transfer, if there is nothing around? Lots of collembolas are transported by wind, so we have to think of fresh air corridors if we want to enhance soil life, where wind transfers soil life. So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that everything is connected. And if we want to have a good wild soil life, we have to think of wildlife habitats, of restoration of rivers and creeks in our communities, of creating species-rich meadows by using regional and indigenous plants, shrubs, and trees. Yeah, the fresh air corridor, the vertical and horizontal permeability has to be reestablished. And we have to create opportunities for soil life to migrate. So it's the same with other species. We need a network of biotopes and stepping stones, habitats also for soil life. And we should really think on a landscape scale, which means that our landscape was structured by hedges, trees, streams, and water courses before the land was consolidated. Agricultural plots became larger and larger, and landscape features such as old trees, natural fences, and hedges were removed. In order to be able to use tractors, farmers started to restore grasslands and fields by using machines which are limited, of course, on uneven surfaces. By plowing up and leveling the areas and reseeding, ideal conditions were created for tractor cultivation. And so a lot of our really old soils were lost. On the other hand, intensification of agriculture, conversion from 3-cut meadows to 7-cut meadows, multiple fertilization have led to the loss of species-rich meadows. But we need to reverse the negative trends of the last 60 years by trying to integrate biodiversity enhancing elements into not only agricultural practices, but also into our cities and villages by thinking in greater scales, for example, establishing nature walks and little biotopes. So these are some ideas for the new tidy. You can see some photos of what I would say would be nice for and tidy for the soil life. We really have to work on a new perspective of people's ideas of what is nice and tidy and why it is okay to be lazy and not so tidy. Nature isn't neatly arranged, it's not cleaned up neatly. Soil life requires organic matter. As the global hydrological cycle intensifies with global warming, deeper droughts and re-wetting will alter and possibly transform ecosystem, soil and ecosystems. So the ecosystems are transforming. Soil communities, however, seem more tolerant than plants or animals are to water stress, but the main effects, in fact, on soil processes appear to be limited diffusion and the limited supply of resources to soil organisms. So lots of soil species need plants as a source, so why don't we accept that plants grow through our paving? So encouraging soil life, we also need to think about what we want to have. We use plants that attract wild bees and butterflies. So wild bees, you can see on this sheet some wild bees habitats, or also habitats from grasshoppers, beetles, ants that use soil for nesting. So the substrate therefore should be loose, lean, sparsely vegetated, sandy, often slightly sloping. So unpaved paths, rural areas, hills, embankments, gravels, sandpits, floodplains, or rough grasslands are possible habitats for especially wild bees. So unseal and form species-rich plant communities that attract pollinators would be to establish species-rich meadows from nearby sites that provide the seeds for the unsealed area. Diverse communities are able to cope with a wide range of environmental conditions. So the more species, the better is they cope with different conditions. So in order to get those species-rich communities, you can choose from different procedures: the brushing out process and the meadow threshing method. So the brushing out process is basically you use a special device such as the Visafix or seed profi or e-beetle or grass grabber. So many of those little machines have been developed in order to brush out the seeds of species-rich donor areas. The process is very flexible and can be used several times on one area to harvest different stages of maturity. And so you basically harvest the seeds and then bring them on your site. The other method is the threshing method, where a meadow is mown with a specially adjusted combined harvester that mows and the mown material threshed at the same time, then is transferred to the construction site. Yeah, so note that the species-rich communities, more than 16 species, store more carbon than species-poor communities. Productivity also increases with diversity, and deeper rooting prevents of erosion. So diverse plant communities recover much faster after dry periods or flood events. So how can we stimulate soil life? Already said, it's the plant diversity. Then we need dead plant material. It's important not to plow or tillage. And yeah, if possible, use little organic fertilization with straw content, so solid dung, not any, yeah, or yeah, fertilization which is not solid dung would be contradictory. So aerobic conditions should be there with a lot of soil life. And the promotion of fungi can be done by dead wood, by leaving dead wood and leaves. So the more diverse the soil life, the healthier the soil and its plants. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that I could give you some new inputs on soil life and the importance to protect it and to enhance it by desealing.
Thank you very much, Susanne, for this contribution, and we wish you all the best for your future activities in the field of soil protection. And yeah, I personally now have I really thank you for the insight of all those very interesting, very exciting, very strange microbes and animals that are living in the soil. So this makes it definitely gives you a new